So welcome to another episode of Filmmaker in the Making. Today we have Maryelle St Clare. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
We were talking a little bit earlier today about how you get into the industry. Well, what you were doing before start the filmmaking?
I was working in basically corporate America, and when I was a kid, I was supposed to be an artist and thought I was going to work in TV production or broadcast journalism, and then something happened, and
life happened. Yeah.
it didn't work. And I was working in corporate America, and it was really killing me. And I finally decided that I needed to quit and figure out how to get into this film industry, which I knew nothing about.
Okay, so you say it was a special situation happened to you. You traveled to some place.
Yeah, I had gone to. I moved to Atlanta in 2009, and I had visited Los Angeles just before I moved, and was invited to visit on the set of Valentine's Day that Gary Marshall was directing. Mm-hmm. And wow. I met his stills photographer, and I had already been doing professional photography, mostly music photography, musicians and bands for years. And when this man, discovered that I was a photographer already and knew how to deal with similar situation, because music is very similar to shooting movies. Yeah. There's no redo, there's no posing. You have to use the light that they have. You can't make your own set. And he said, "Oh, you should get into doing unit stills when you move to Atlanta. They got this film industry there." And so that was 2009, and I moved here, and I really didn't know how to do any of that, and I needed a normal job. So, I was like, I can't do something where it's going to be, like basically being self-employed. But then in 2014, I had enough, and I said, okay, now I'm going to figure out how to do this film industry.
That's it.
Yeah, and now I'm going to figure it out.
So that day that you break the core, you say, I gotta do it.
Yeah.
What happened, or was it something that happened to you, or what encouraged you to do that jump to see what happens?
Just the job that I was at, it was very uncreative. There was no creativity about it, and it was just killing my soul inside. And it's a terrible feeling to have to dread going to a job every day, like to wake up and just think, oh my God, I can't do it again. I can't. It was horrible. Mm-hmm. And what happened was both my mother and brother died. And they were able to leave me a little bit of money. So I said, I can afford to quit this job now, and I won't have to worry about, how am I gonna support myself for a little bit. Mm-hmm. So, very sad that they both died within a year or so of each other. But because of that, I was able to finally get out of that business and say, I'm going to do something creative. If it's the film industry, that's what I'm going to try for, but I've got to do something in my life to work that is creative and not this boring, corporate numbers.
Monday to Friday, 8 to 5.
Yeah. I was like, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah. And then, I think you said very important right there. Most of the people sometimes don't jump because, they have to pay the bills, and then how am I gonna survive for the next month or 3 months? Maybe how I'm gonna survive next week. Depending how tight is your financial situation. Yeah. So that's a very bold move. I'm sorry for you have a but
thankfully, I was able, because of they both passing away, I was able to make this.
Right there, when you decided to jump, what you did that helped you to get in the industry, or any special thing, or any like crazy thing you had to do to get into the industry? Because you didn't know, you
didn't know anything.
How to get in?
I Googled how to get in the film industry. I went on Facebook and I said, well, I'm going to put in the search bar film groups or Atlanta Film or something. And I started reading up and, realized, okay, there's this position called production assistant. So that's what everybody starts out at, basically. If you...
That's the entry level.
Yeah, that's the entry level. And they said, even doesn't matter what you went to school for. You could have a degree in film or whatever. It doesn't matter. Everybody starts as a production assistant. And I was like, okay, how do you get a production assistant job? It was basically I Googled. That's how I did it.
So when you got that position, how you get in? You had little knowledge of production assistant, so.
Yeah, well, I made sure to do some research so that I wasn't going to get some sort of job on set and know nothing.
Okay.
And at least I could research ahead of time, and I researched TV terms. What words do they use on a TV set? Like, what's their lingo? So that I would get familiar with some of those terms. The very first job that I had was doing unit stills for, an indie production they actually didn't even advertise for a unit stills photographer, but I contacted them and said, hey, I want to get experience on set. Do you want to have any unit stills? Like, I do know how to take pictures. I said, I just, I've never done unit stills before. And they said yes, and so that was my first one.
So that was your step right there.
Yeah.
But you touched on something very important. I think PA, most of people see it's not a very good position, but it's the door to actually get wherever you want. I think as a PA, you have the option to float around different departments.
Exactly, and figure out what you want to do.
Figure out what you want. So I think for people out there who see, because sometimes I have friends, I don't want to be PA,
nobody really wants to.
I have a bachelor degree, I spend I don't know how much money.
It doesn't matter.
I'm sorry for that. So, and then they don't want to pay, but that, like you said, the PA is a door to go wherever you want. So it's a very important position that people doesn't see that way.
Right.
So, and then you did PA, and then you moved to what department?
Art department, mostly. At the beginning, I was doing some production assistant work in different departments, because you basically take anything. I would take anything to get for the experience, and especially if it was paid, and they wanted to be a locations PA, like, fine, I'll do that, because it's paying. And then I was doing unit stills at the same time, and I sort of, you get to a point where you kind of have to decide, like, where do I want to go? Like, what's my path going to be? And at the time, mirrorless cameras weren't very common, so a shutter makes a noise, and if you're taking unit stills, you have to put your camera in this soundproof box called a blimp. And it's this big box that you hold in front of your face, and I don't like that. You have to do all the controls through this box, and I don't like doing that. So I was doing more art department things at the time, and I thought, I think I could progress more in this art department and like it better than doing unit stills, which I just don't like using that blimp, and for different other different reasons. Like, I think I like music photography more than film photography. So I was trying to focus on art department jobs. And I did end up doing the PA Academy, which is kind of that was probably about 6 months after I'd already been working. But I thought, hey, can't hurt. I could probably learn some stuff I don't know. So I did the PA Academy, which the real value in the PA Academy, which is run by Linda Burns and the Atlanta Film Society, is the connections you make. Because with other people, and Linda gets a lot of job opportunities that she passes on to her students. That's great. And I got a number of jobs through her. But I was, gravitating towards art department, and, so ended up only taking jobs in the art department.
So when you were getting into the art department, any difficult situation you encountered because you were so new, something like, you were female working to the mainly concentrated industry? Any special situation you would like to share with us?
Well, one thing about art department is it's fairly hard to get PA jobs in the art department, because there's only one probably in the whole department. Whereas like a set PA, on a big movie, they may have 10 or 15 set PAs. Okay. And they probably have 5 or 10, maybe background PAs or casting PAs. And locations will probably have 2 or 3 PAs, but art department might have 1. Okay. And that's it. So they're hard to get those jobs.
It's hard to.
But, I just kept trying. And
so for people out there, for new filmmakers that, they never been in a big movie where it's the art department, like I have been, what is the duties of the art department? What they do on set that make it look awesome, the whatever production it is?
So, the art department is the largest single department on a movie. And art department is headed by the production designer. And the production designer is the person who works with the DP and the director to come up with the visual look and feel of the movie. Okay. So the coloration, the decor, the costumes, what the costumes, sort of what they're supposed to look like, even the makeup. I mean, the production designer is not the makeup department's lead. It's not their head, but part of what he or she comes up with is going to be transferred down to the makeup people.
Okay.
This is the kind of look that we want.
Mm-hmm.
So the production designers covers the art department, props, construction, scenic, to an extent costumes, makeup to an extent, just as it relates to, again, having that look and feel determined between the production designer, DP, and director.
Okay.
So there's different departments within art, and I primarily work in set dec or props. That's set decoration or props.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on what type of, how big the movie is.
Yes.
A small production will not going to have all those different departments. They may have no construction to do, so there's no construction. They may have no scenic painting to do, so there's no scenic, there's no sculpting, there's no molding. But they usually will have some sort of set deck because they need the decoration for the set. So the art department will really control like the look and the feel of the movie. Between the decorations, between everything that the actor touches or uses. Like if this is just on a table, this cup right here, that's set decoration.
Everything.
Once the actor goes like this, it's no longer set decoration, it's props, and it becomes the props' responsibility. Like they would look in the script and see, oh, there's a cup in this scene. If he picks up the cup, it's props. Set dec has nothing to do with it anymore. Like they don't pick the cup, they don't manage the cup, they don't do anything. Props does it because it's props since he touched it.
So what's the difference between art director and production designer? What's the difference between one and another?
So the production designer is the head of the entire art department. The art director, within the art department, like people who are working in it, or let me change that. People who are not working in it sort of call that whole umbrella of people, of set dec, props, construction, scenic, they call that all the art department. But the art department, really, there's this whole umbrella of art department, and then there's this little piece that's the art department. And in that department, that is headed by the art director.
Okay.
And then like the art department coordinator works for the art director. And then that's where they usually have an art PA, is in that office.
Okay.
So the art director, that's a position where they do a lot of work of tracking like the budget and keeping things within the budget of what everything's supposed to cost and how much. That's a large part of what the art department coordinator does, is track every day the budget and how much money they spent on every single thing, so that they know if they're going over or what they have left to use.
So any specific project you have worked on you would like to share with us, an experience working, any project that actually, push you to create something beyond your comfort zone, something?
Oh gosh. God, I don't know about that, but I mean, one thing that happened that pushed me was I had my union application ready for probably a year, and just hadn't turned it in yet because I felt like I was a fraud. I was like, oh, I don't think I have enough experience. And people were telling me, they're like, why haven't you turned this in yet? You need to go, take your money and take your application and turn it in.
And do it.
And I just kept thinking, oh, I just don't think I'm ready. I don't think I have enough experience. And then I got a call from a friend who asked me, she's like, hey, do you want to, I have this show, and do you want to work as a buyer on it? It was a union TV show. I said, I'm not in a union yet. She goes, they're desperate. So they really need people. And then, if you go and it's legal to hire non-union people. And she said, they really need people right now. It's extremely busy. This was in 2017, and when it was very, very busy. And she said, you work a couple weeks and then you can turn your application in. You make enough money in a week to pay for it. And so, I did start working there for that show, hired as non-union, which is really unusual. And then, a few weeks later, I finally turned my union application in because I was like, okay. And it's funny because at the time when I had prepared my application, I was not going to go into the union as a buyer. So when you join the union, the 479, which is the local studio mechanics local for most positions in Georgia for film. It doesn't cover camera or makeup or locations, but most everything else is the 479. You get to pick 2 classifications that you want to go in as. You can actually work anything, but you can pick up to 2 that you go in as, right? And I originally wanted to go in as a construction utility and a set dresser because I really like construction and building stuff. And then I got hired as a buyer, so I figured I better go in as a buyer, instead of a construction utility because I'm already working as a buyer. So I ended up going in as a buyer and a set dresser.
Good. So you said something that I would like to go back a little bit. You said you don't want to turn the application because you feel like a fraud.
Yeah.
So this is something I would like to change because I'm pretty sure, I'm certain you have the skills, but you were not believing yourself.
Yeah, well, to an extent, and I had worked for 3 years already. It's not like I had just started. And there are people, probably one of the first shows that I did was I was a PA on the Carbonaro Effect, which is a true TV show. And one of the guys who worked there, who was a set dresser, he's like, you got to join the union. I said, oh, no. That was back in 2015. And I said, oh, no, I'm not qualified to join the union. I said, I'm just, barely a PA. And I was like, what would I go in as? He's like, set dresser. And I was like, I don't know how to be a set dresser. It's like, that's ridiculous. Like, they would fire me in a day. Like, I knew nothing about that. But a lot of people actually do that. They meet people, they have the money, they get people to sign their application, and they join without really knowing what to do in that position. So, and I didn't want to be one of those people. I had a friend who is very experienced, who had worked on a bunch of, Spider-Man and Captain America and all these Marvel films, and she had moved here and started working, and she said that on her first day, and she had more than 10 years of experience, there were set dressers on set that was the very first job they had ever had on a set. The very first day they'd been on a set, and they were union set dressers because they got people to sign their applications. Yes. And she said they didn't know anything. They didn't know what gaff tape was. And I was like, I'm doing PA work.
So after you turned the application, maybe you thought, why didn't before? Why?
I did, exactly. I was like, why took me so long? That was dumb.
Yeah.
I should have turned it in probably a year earlier, but not 3 years earlier. I should not have done it when that guy told me, just join as a set dresser.
Right there.
Yeah. Unfortunately, set dresser is seen in a lot of cases as a job for people to take when they don't really know how to do anything. And it's really not fair because I've seen people who don't know what they're doing, and I've seen people who are serious, like professional set dressers, and it's really awe-inspiring to watch them. It's like, oh my God, these are professional set dressers who really know how to do this job, and what a difference from people who got in and started doing it, but they clearly don't know how to do a job.
So what makes you unique in your area? When we say Maryelle St Clare, what makes Maryelle St Clare unique in the art department?
God, I don't know if I'm unique, and probably a lot of people could say the same thing, but I do have a lot of different skills. So, I've done within the art or set deck or props department. I've built props, fabricated props. I've bought furniture, I know a lot of sources to buy things. So I know all the prop houses. I also have done, graphic design for quite a number of pretty decent-sized projects.
Networking. Let's talk about network. What do you think? How powerful is network in any filmmaker career?
It's super important because the majority of jobs that people get, they get through people they know, which is sometimes an advantage and sometimes not, because it can be really hard if you don't know the right people to get hired on a show, because people will hire who they've worked with before and who they know over total strangers. Sometimes it happens. One of the first jobs that I PA'd on was for a TV show where somebody posted in a group on Facebook that he was looking for PAs, and I sent my info in. This was back in 2015, I think. So I'd probably been working for a year, and he actually said, hey, I don't normally hire people I don't know, but you seem like normal. And he goes, I've seen some of your posts in this group, and you sound like you're normal and not a psycho, and that you would be, this is very important, you would not be a bad person to have to be around for 12 or 14 hours a day. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody wants, you're stuck with people.
Yep.
So nobody wants to, even if you're a great worker, like nobody wants to be with you if you're like have a terrible personality or whatever your quirk is that makes people not want to be around you for 12 solid hours every day for possibly months.
And plus have lunch with you too.
And have lunch with you. And I mean, there's no escape,
Yeah.
Especially like in the set deck department where if you're a set dresser, I mean, you're with these set dressers all day, you go to lunch together, you go to the bathroom together. Nobody wants to be, you might be in a truck for hours, just you and another guy in a truck. Like, you do not want to be around people that aren't pleasant to be around.
Yeah.
It's okay for an hour, it's not okay for 12 hours.
Yeah, it is.
So this guy said, oh, well, you seem normal, and I've seen some of your comments, and he's like, I don't usually hire people I don't know, but I'll take a chance on you. And I worked that, and he actually told me he became one of my sponsors for my union application. And he told me he was like one of the best PAs he'd ever worked with, and that he would, recommend me to anyone. He's one of my references on my resume still. 5 years later, he did my union application, and that was something that I found through Facebook. So, networking is really important, and that's not just in groups, but or Facebook groups or online things, but meet people too. Yeah.
And then networking, what tips or stuff that you do that it can help people out there to, help the networking skills? I go to this networking event, something that you do special or something that you do is effective.
Well, a lot of jobs are found through Facebook. I've probably found at least 50% of my jobs through Facebook groups. I run a group myself, actually, called the Atlanta Film Community Group, and there's a number of Atlanta groups. That's not the only one, but it's. There's a combination. There's no one thing that people should do. I'm not going to say, oh, just join groups and that'll get you in, or just meet people and that'll get you in, or just go to this other event and that'll get you in. You got to do all these things. As far as online interactions would go, I would suggest, especially for PAs, join every group on Facebook for Atlanta Film, and set the notifications to, get all.
Get all.
You got to have your phone with you at all times. And you need to check those groups and see, because it's a numbers game. People post looking, especially for jobs like production assistants where the pool is very large. And you need to be one of the first people to send your resume in, because within an hour they'll get 200 or 300.
So I seen like on Facebook, Atlanta Film Community do this type of self-promotions and stuff on Saturday. I think it's on Saturday, right?
Tuesdays and Saturdays.
Tuesdays and Saturday. So can you elaborate stuff like this group do to help filmmakers to be, networking, stuff like that?
There's a number of Atlanta film groups on Facebook. I think I have the largest one. We have about 27,000 people now. When I took it over, I did not found the group, somebody else did. And I think it actually started in like an AOL chat room or something 20 years ago.
Wow.
But I took it over from somebody who wanted to relinquish his admin duties. And I think it had about 8,000 people, 7,000 or 8,000 when I took it over. And it's up to 27,000 now.
Wow.
And that comes with vetting everyone who joins. Like they used to just let everybody join. You put you applied to join, you're in. Just approve everybody. And I stopped that because all it did was bring in a lot of spammers, people who posted porn, endless spam, endless, look at me, hire me, here's my reel, watch me. And over a period of, I didn't do this right away, but I was like, I want to make this group more of a resource and a discussion group as opposed to what all the other groups do, which is let people post anything they want, anytime they want, as much as they want. I was like, let's turn this into not only something that maybe is a better resource for people, but the way that Facebook works is the more interaction people have with a group, the more that group's posts are sent out to the group members, because not all posts get delivered to group members on Facebook. So posts, a group that has a lot of interaction, the algorithms on Facebook send those posts out to more people in the group.
Wow.
And an individual post that has a lot of interactions will get far more reach than one person's post saying, here's my reel, watch my reel. If there's a post, and this is why I changed it to doing the self-promotion on Tuesdays and Saturdays, if there is one post where 30 or 40 or 50 people are all participating in it, that goes way farther than one guy's post saying, here's my reel, watch my reel, hire me. Because that almost nobody interacts with. You know, maybe a couple of people will say, oh, nice reel, or hey, you know, looks interesting, or, you know, like the post. Having one post where people comment of their reels and, hey, this is what I do, and this is the kind of work I'm looking for, and that gets 30 or 40 or 50 comments and, you know, 2,000 or 3,000 reactions and interactions goes a lot further on Facebook.
Now, really, what I like a lot about this group is it's a structure. Even if you want to post a job opportunity, you gotta have a structure for
right,
days.
Which is something else I implemented, and of course a lot of people don't like that. But again, something that I saw was, I was like, I want this group to be, I mean, I know it's Facebook, and I'm not saying that, you know, it has to be as professional as some super high industry level networking source. But I was like, you know, if this group, if we can be more like professional and legit, that attracts people who are professional and legit, you know. And one thing I started doing was saying, if you want to post a casting call or a crew call, like, we need to have some basic information, not just looking for crew, PM me. Like, that's not a crew call. If somebody, for instance, has a casting call on Actors Access, there's a whole list of information they have to provide, and they have to pay for that. You know, this group is free. Like, I don't get paid to run it. I don't make any money off it. And it's a free access to 27,000 people. You know, Actors Access, they would have to pay to post a casting call. Staff Me Up, people have to pay to post crew calls on there. You can have a free account on Staff Me Up to apply, but it's very limited. So a lot of people pay, again, for that service. I'm like, and that also requires a certain amount of information. You know, what kind of production is it? Who's putting this on? Who's the production company? What's the job? You know, what are the duties? What's the pay? What's the rate? It's like, you know, if we're going to up this group a little bit on the notch of professionalism, then we need to make people include some of this really basic information in their casting and crew call. Tuesdays and Saturdays, we do the self-promotion. So that's when I start one post, and everybody who wants to, you know, self-promote, they want to do their trailer, they want to put their resume, they want to say, this is what I do, this is what I'm looking for, they can comment in there. And that seems to work pretty well. And there's an exception, which very few people follow for some unknown reason, which is if you want to post a trailer, all you have to do is start a discussion about it. Not, this is my trailer, you should watch it. But this is my trailer. We lost our lead actor 2 months into filming, and we did not know what we were going to do because we didn't have enough budget to reshoot the whole thing. So I'm going to tell you how I fixed that. Like, what was my workaround method for when the lead actor that we've already shot a whole bunch of footage with quit? This is what I did and did and did. What do you guys do?
So that's, I hope some people out there see that.
I hope so.
I hope so too, you know, that's, there you go, you got
there's a really easy way. Spend 5 minutes thinking up a topic to talk about, other than look at me. How about, I want to look at you, what did you do? Because this is the mistakes I think I made, and this is the success I think I had. Like, has this happened to anybody else? Like, what would you have done? Like, tell me what you think I did wrong. Yeah.
So tell me about the artwork you put in these films.
I've had a number of pieces of my artwork in different TV shows, some paintings, photography. Like I mentioned earlier, I've been doing professional photography and mostly music and musicians for, 12 years now. Wow. And I had an interest in photography for many years before that. But I went to a concert one night and was in the front row, and there was no barrier, so the front row was very close to the stage. And I looked over and I see this woman and I have a little camera, I just had a little consumer camera with me. And I see this woman who's got a DSLR and a pass of some sort, and she's in the aisle, and I was like, she must have permission. I was like, I want to do that. Like, and I went home and I Googled, how do you get to photograph a concert? And that's how I started.
So when you go to sleep, what keeps you dreaming?
Well, there's a never-ending, struggle to find work, because this industry, you basically function as a self-employed person. So even though when you're on a show, you may be employed by the payroll company or the production company, but it works as though you're self-employed. You're always looking for your next job. So I'm always trying to think of, where am I going to, when's my next job going to be up for? What am I going to be up for? How am I going to find it? Who can I contact? And then the other thing is, as far as on a creative level, one thing that I really want to do more of is doing art direction for bands. I mean, like I said, I started out with doing music photography. I'm a huge, huge, huge music fan. I've been to more than 500 concerts. Wow. I've shot probably 200 bands, and I've had work in art galleries, and I have a picture hanging that was bought by the Hard Rock Corporation, hangs in their corporate offices and their permanent collection.
And any word of wisdom that you would like to give to those filmmakers out there that they're still thinking to turning that application in?
Save your money, whatever you make, because you don't know when your next job's going to come. So you have to be really good with your money, and understand that just because you make X hundred of dollars a day, you have to live as though you make half of that. And just keep trying. Like, don't get too depressed when you get turned down. I mean, I got turned down for that job. I think I mentioned it earlier, where they said you've done too many things and we don't think you're serious. And that was a big TV show. And I was in the car ready to leave for my first day when they told me that. We changed our minds. And that's going to happen sometimes, that you have a job and then all of a sudden you don't. And things change, shows stop, they lose their budgets, or they decide to film somewhere else. And just, you have to keep moving forward and, keep meeting people. And when you're not working, do things to develop your skills. One of the first things I did for set dressing is every set dresser needs to know a couple of different knots, because they have to tie the truck down. So, go on YouTube, look up how to tie different knots. Whatever it is that you're focusing on, there's a lot that you can learn. Like, always be educating yourself, whether that's through taking actual classes, or taking classes at the Union Hall, or, going on lynda.com and learning how to use some software, or whatever it is.
Keep learning.
Keep learning, and when you're working on a set, there's going to be people who have been doing that for 20 or 30 years. Like, listen to what they have to say. Maybe your way, you think it's better, but it's not always better in the big picture. Maybe it is better sometimes, but a lot of times there's a certain reason for doing things. And people who've been in this industry a long time will have a lot of experience, and they know why the thing that you thought was the better way is actually not the better way. So keep your eyes open, and listen to people, and watch what they do, and learn from other people who are on set, and then learn on your own when you're not working. Like, use that time valuably. Don't be like, oh, I'm off, I don't have a job, so I guess I just loaf around and go to the beach and the pool every day. Like, make an effort to keep up with your professional skills.
So thank you so much.
Okay,
thank you for all the awesome information you've been sharing with us, and also the awesome job you've been doing with the Latin film community.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And for the people out there, thank you for watching us. Subscribe to our channel. Please, share. You share because this is something who can help out there. Somebody's looking for this type of motivation or tips or something that work for her. Maybe you don't know how they can help. So thank you so much. See you in the next one.